Greetings, YouTube. Today we're looking at the book Fantasy Freaks and Gaming Geeks, an epic quest for reality among role players, online gamers, and other dwellers of imaginary realms by Ethan Gilsdorf. Now, I am an unabashed nerd. I was a nerd before I ever discovered role-playing games, and once I discovered role-playing games, it just got worse. And I am a contemporary of Mr. Gilsdorf's. He was born and raised in New Hampshire. He's a year younger than I am. We could have gamed together under different circumstances. And I will not deny at all that this man started out with a rough road to hoe. His parents got divorced when he was still young, and his father booked it to Canada, utterly abandoning his children. I have no idea if there was a financial support, but there was no parental support. His father left to another country. And as far as I'm concerned, that's parental abandonment. And it wins him no accolades with me. And then when his mother was 38, she suffered a major brain aneurysm, which not only left her physically impaired with partial paralysis on her left side, but completely and utterly irrevocably altered her personality. From a lively, upbeat, supportive woman to someone that her three children came to refer to as the kitchen dragon, as someone they avoided at all costs. His one brother became a workaholic and part-time jobs and stuff to stay away from his home. His sister became an academic and after-school program aficionado to keep herself away, and he went into gaming. A neighbor introduced him to it, and that's how he escaped. And every time he talked about his mother's addiction to nicotine and alcohol, I had to prevent myself from gagging every time he described her chain smoking in the house with her children. Ugh! That right there, as far as I'm concerned, is enough to get a parent to lose their parental rights. But the woman had no right to be a parent. There were adults in the household helping her, but there is in no way this woman was capable of being a proper parent. And his father was in another country. He didn't have it easy. And if the rest of the book had just been a series of articles about the topics he was discussing, I would be giving this book an endorsement. But it's also an autobiography. This man coming to grips with the fact that at 40, he still had desires to be nerdy. For some reason, he could not reconcile this. And apparently he didn't understand that you should see a therapist. So he wrote a book. And went on an epic journey. He did go on an epic quest all over the planet to find out if it was okay for him to be a nerd at 40, or 42 by the time the book was done. I'm really glad this guy is not gay, trans, or otherkin, because there would be a 12-volume set of him finally coming to reconcile who he is with his thoughts that the world will not accept him. So yes, I had a problem with that. The guy needed to go see a therapist, not write a book. But the articles he wrote, the chapters that deal with the topics he's discussing, were very well written. But it's also an autobiography. And this man is so deeply steeped in his white and male privilege that it is unreal. Throughout this book, he was a sexist douche bro, constantly referring to women as damsels in distress. While at Dragon Con, one of his goals was to get himself a hot superhero. Because, you know, he's a 40-year-old dude and he just deserves a hot girl, doesn't he? Even though he's kind of already in a relationship that's on the rocks, I wonder why it's on the rocks. He comments about the fact that one woman he talked to, he texted her repeatedly, but she didn't reply. Really? She didn't reply. Desperation wafts off this guy like the stench on a garbage scow. I loved the stories he told. I despised this dude by the end of the book. I really didn't like him. I wouldn't want anything to do with him. And it amazes me at the end of the book, his girlfriend still kind of wants to have a relationship with him. I wonder if she ever read this and found out that he was hitting on everything that moved, including someone who was half his age. Now, in the process of writing this book, he goes to Britain and talks about Tolkien and goes to his haunts, talks to experts and scholars, all of whom sound very white, and none of them ever address Tolkien's deep-seated racism in the Middle-earth. Nope, just skimmed right over that. He talked to actual current gamers. He tried 4th edition, which is a great pity. He went to a con where Gary Gygax was supposed to show up, but he died like 4 months before the con, so that didn't happen. But he did get to talk to like Jim Ward and some other really big names from the early era of gaming. And he got to play AD&D, the game that 2nd edition, the game that he was introduced to. So kudos to him. He went and learned about LARPers and experienced that. He learned about the SCA, got to go to Pennsic. He went to Pennsic. I never even went to Pennsic, the biggest SCA event in the world. I'm amazed he didn't talk about hitting on women there, because I'm sure he did. Maybe he did, actually. I think he might have mentioned that now that I think about it. It wouldn't surprise me. He got to talk to some people who actually are Skadians, and the guy builds custom televisions, one of which is owned by Brad Pitt. They're reproductions of like the first Philco televisions or something. And he does props and things for films and things. He owns the leather jacket worn by Tim Curry in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's cool. That belongs in a temple somewhere after Tim Curry dies. He talks about online gaming and acts like online gaming and tabletop gaming is welcoming to all the diverse people of the world. No, it isn't. There are some gamers and places that diversity is welcomed, but gaming online and at the table is deeply misogynistic. Again, glosses right over that. It's like it doesn't exist, because guess what? It doesn't affect him. And if he goes all the way to the sets of the Lord of the Rings movies in New Zealand. At the end of the book, he finally comes to the conclusion that it's okay to be nerdy. Like I said, a few sessions with a therapist could have prevented hopping around the world and feeling compelled to write a book. And revealing himself to the world as a white male steeped in privilege, a sexist, and a major douche bro. So, I can't recommend this book. I'm going to donate it. Maybe someone else can get something out of it I didn't get. If it had just been the stories of where he went and the people he talked to, and if he had addressed the issues that he skipped over, this would be a cool book. But he was blind to them. And he came off like a jerk again and again and again. And by the end of the book, I just didn't like him. And I can't remember many times when I just didn't like an author. That is a rarity for me. He earns that accolade. Bravo, I guess.